A Sea of Sorrows by Bookshope21. Chapter 9. Half of Scythia and the Son of Neptune. Camp Half-Blood, Long Island Sound, New York, August 30th, 2008. Once the laughter had settled down, Karen stood up. Campers, another summer has come and gone. While I am saddened by the death of so many, I am pleased to announce that I will be co-teaching at Mr. Weasley's school in order to have a better understanding of the magical world, announces Chiron, and Percy appears rather annoyed. Darn, there goes the poker party that I had planned with my fellow Scythians, says Percy seriously. Everyone looks surprised. We play for candy, but it usually results in a brawl. The teachers don't even know, says Percy. His statement was met with laughter from his fellow campers, as well as Chiron. I am to be the teaching assistant for the Defense Against the Dark Arts, says Chiron, and the sound of a head hitting a table could be heard. Annabeth gives Chiron a set of books that Percy bought when he was in Diagon Alley. Chiron, those were written by the doubted teacher, and they have never lasted more than a year, says Percy in all seriousness. I will return during the weekend, campers, and Argus as well as Dionysus, when he returns, shall be in charge while I am away, says Chiron on September 1st, as he and Percy get ready to head for Hogwarts. They arrive as the train arrives. Percy makes his way into the school, and he arrives in the Great Hall before everyone else. As the first years are being sorted, a loud crash was heard from outside, and Percy, as well as Snape and Albus, rush outside, to which they see Harry Potter and Ronald Weasley sprawled on the ground while the car is in flames. Percy summons water from the Black Lake to douse the fire to ensure that there is no disaster. The boys are healed and brought to the Great Hall for dinner. Students, I would like for you all to welcome our new dialect teacher, Professor Lockhart, and his assistant, Chiron, says Albus as Lockhart stands up. He gets hit in the face with a splash of water, while Chiron doesn't. Now, why on earth would someone do that to me? Whoever did shall receive detention, says Lockhart. He has to hide his face behind his hand so the students wouldn't see his wet face. Chiron looked at Percy sternly, and Percy didn't even look ashamed. As the school year began, Percy was shown to be a merciless student to Gilderoy. Chiron observed Percy's classes, and he realized that Percy was often ignored by the teachers, as he was rather intelligent. On Halloween, Percy was attacked by his half-siblings because he had constantly refused to even send Molly a letter. She consistently sent him letters, even though he had refused to contact her or Arthur. During lunch that day, the 4 younger Weasley siblings continued to harass Percy, which resulted in 4 loud smacks being heard in the room. Everyone looked at the Gryffindor table in horror as Fred, George, Ron, and Ginny. That is bloody hell enough. You can tell Molly and Arthur that I will never return to the Burrow. I swear on the river Styx that I will never forgive Molly and Arthur unless they apologize to me, says Percy, as thunder could be heard outside of Hogwarts, even though it was a clear and sunny day. Percy refused to speak with the Weasleys after that, and in December of that year, it was the last time that anyone would see him for many months. San Francisco, California, United States of America, June 2008. Percy was running from the Gorgons, and whenever he attacked them, or rather any monsters, they would never stay dead. Percy felt a calling towards the area, and maybe it connected him to Annabeth. The Gorgons have tried to bite, scratch, and claw at Percy, but their claws and teeth always broke. He had woken up 2 months ago outside of a burnt cabin, and he had to get to a mysterious camp, which was a safe haven for demigods. Percy once again killed the Gorgons before sliding down the hill on a snack platter. He landed in the middle of a passing car, and he rolled to the edge of the highway, which was only a short distance. Percy saw an old lady, and she asked him to carry her to the entrance of the camp. She introduced herself as Juno, and promised that Percy would get his memories back. He agreed to do so with the hope that he would find Annabeth. Percy carried the old lady, who was heavy in his arms. The Gorgons were slowly catching up to them, and Percy saw the maintenance cell. One of the guards helped him into the camp, while the other held off the Gorgons. Percy, Juno, Frank, and Hazel reached the riverbank. "Go, Hazel, it's my turn to hold them off," says Frank, and Juno tells Percy something disturbing. "The little Tiber, it flows with the power of the original Tiber, river of the Empire. This is your last chance to back our child. The mark of Achilles is a Greek blessing. You can't retain it if you cross into Roman territory. The Tiber will wash it away," says Juno. In the end, Percy decides to cross the Tiber River, and it feels as though he'd been sprayed with acid and then dropped in fire. Percy uses his water powers to save Frank and turn the Gorgons into monster dust. Percy's right pant leg was cut off, which revealed a prosthetic leg, which startled some of the demigods, but none of them made a comment about his leg. The old lady was revealed to be Juno, queen of the gods. Percy felt a hatred for her, but he was unsure why, as he was introduced as the son of Neptune. One of the demigods before him looked shocked, as though she knew him from somewhere. Hazel gave Percy a tour of the camp and met Octavian. He felt as though he had met him before. Percy got to meet the ambassador of Pluto, Nico, and the boy looked surprised to see Percy. Percy had a Roman-style bath, which made him feel great. It would be an understatement to say that Percy was nervous. Percy wasn't scared when he was introduced to the camp. He wasn't even freaked out by the ghosts, as Percy was accepted into the 5th cohort, while the other 4 cohorts thought the 5th was a joke. Percy thought that they were fine. As the war games were getting ready to start, Percy was teamed up with Frank and Hazel. Frank led the charge, and the trio dominated the battlefield. The trio were the first ones over the wall, and they led the 5th cohort to victory. Gwen was stabbed by a member of the 1st cohort, and she came back to laugh. Then Mars arrived, and he delivered a prophecy. "Go to Alaska, find Thanatos, and free him. Come back on June 24th or die." Percy joined a Senate meeting the next morning, and he said goodbye to the faded orange shirt that he had been wearing, as well as the faded sleep pants that he had been wearing, which were replaced by shorts and an official Camp Jupiter t-shirt. Raina gave him a ring and told him to seek out her sister in Seattle so that acid could be sent to Camp Jupiter in order to ensure the camp's survival. Aid, not acid. Raina gave him a ring and told him to seek out her sister in Seattle so that aid could be sent to Camp Jupiter in order to ensure the camp's survival. The questers arrived at their boat, which was falling apart, and when they stopped because Hazel was unconscious, Percy became sick at the sight of a group of Cyclops and a herd of centaurs. Hazel and Percy made an iris message to Raina in order to inform her of the incoming monsters. Raina was surprised to see them, but she accepted the news nonetheless. The group arrived in Portland in order to find Phineas, a blind man who would give them the location of Thanatos. The group meet a friendly harpy named Ella. Ella recited part of the prophecy that Percy knew. A half-blood of the eldest gods shall reach 16 against all odds. Using the Gorgon blood, which Frank had grabbed as Percy's trophies, the 2 sons of Neptune drank, and at first it appeared that Percy was dying, but instead it was Phineas. As the group sailed for Seattle, Percy started to remember names and faces. He remembered the names of his 6 half-siblings, as well as the face that he wasn't on speaking terms with, his mortal family, aside from his 2 older brothers. As more of Percy's memories started to come back, he remembered that he attended a magical school in Scotland, and that the headmaster was batshit crazy. Percy also started to remember that he had disappeared when the school was being attacked by an unknown monster. The demigods met Hyla, and she locked Percy and Frank for the crime of being boys. Hazel and Arion saved them. Together they rode off on Arion, and the horse had a potty mouth, but Hazel rode on Arion while Frank, Percy, and Ella were in the chariot. They arrived at Frank's house, and when they left the next morning, Percy drove like a bat out of Hades. Ella didn't join them on the plane that wouldn't take them to Alaska, but he promised that Tyson would find her. "There is another camp, a camp for Greek demigods," said Percy, which surprised Frank and Hazel because they didn't expect that, but also that Octavian could blame Percy for being a spy to the Greeks. Hazel convinced Percy to get some sleep, and in his dreams, that is when he spoke to Tyson about finding Ella and defending Camp Jupiter. When they were in Alaska, Percy fell into a muskeg, and it felt as though he was drowning, which terrified him. "If I die, then I want Bill and Charlie to know that I have always loved them. Well, for the rest, they can go to Hades," thinks Percy, as Hazel and Frank save him. The group arrived at Hubbard's Glacier, and when Hazel was fighting Acunius, Frank was freeing Thanatos, Percy was fighting an army of ghosts. He kept fighting the ghosts, and he had managed to make a hurricane out of ice, snow, and water. When Frank had finally freed Thanatos, Percy used the last remaining strength in his hurricane to sweep the ghosts off of the glacier, and he fell into the water with them. The water carried Percy until he saw the missing stuff from the 5th cohort, and as Percy waited for his friends, Percy spots a phoenix. "Poseidon!" cries Percy, as his beloved flies to him. "Poseidon, can you help to recover some weapons?" asks Percy, as he and his phoenix go under the water. Using a fishing net that he found, Percy collected everything in the net, and his phoenix brought it up to dry land just as Frank and Hazel arrived. "Let's get these weapons to camp," says Percy, as the weapons were tied onto the chariot. Poseidon Phoenix flamed them to Camp Jupiter just as the battle began. Tyson and Ella arrived. The gold is distributed, and Percy used the Legion's eagle and destroyed the monsters with lightning. Then the sound of forklifts and wolves could be heard. "Amazons and hunters, let us fight in the name of the gods," cries Hyla, as the demigods stormed into the camp. "Demigod scum, be prepared to face your death," says Polybotus. Percy gives a member of the 5th Legion the eagle to continue to decimate the monsters, while Percy, who is riding Mrs. O'Leary, charged with Polybotus. Percy saw that the 1st Legion was struggling to fight against a group of centaurs, so Percy summoned water from the Little Tiber River. The water gathered speed and strength as it became a powerful hurricane, which decimated the attackers. "Hunters, help wherever you can," cries Thalia, as she, Bianca, and Percy rush to Polybotus. As he attempts to enter the city, Thalia and Bianca fly volley after volley of arrow at the giant. "Spawn of Poseidon, we finally meet. I am anticipating to spill your blood in the birthplace of the gods," he cries. Percy feels so angry that he strikes Riptide into the ground by the statue of Terminus, and an earthquake strikes. It knocks the attackers to the ground. "Terminus, do something," cries Hazel, as she and the rest of Camp Jupiter make their way to Percy. As quickly as it began, the earthquake stopped, and Percy has his hand pointed towards Polybotus. "Avada Kedavra," says Percy, as his eyes are burning a scary green as a bolt of bright green emerges from his hand and strikes the giant. Terminus, while he may be a statue, fell on the giant, which helped in his defeat. Percy stumbles as he is rather weak. "I need nectar and ambrosia," calls Bianca, as 2 hunters emerge from the crowd with the 2 requested items. After a few minutes, Percy is back up on his feet, and he is raised on a shield as he was named Praetor. During dinner that evening, Percy sat with Frank and Hazel when Bianca and Thalia came. "Bianca and Thalia, meet Hazel Levesque, the daughter of Pluto," says Percy cheekily. "Hazel, my name is Bianca, and I guess we are half-sisters, as I am the daughter of Hades, while Nico is the son of Hades." "Thalia is the daughter of Zeus," says Bianca, "and dinner provided to be a welcome celebration. After much convincing, Percy stood up and he explained his true background. So, I am the son of Poseidon, and there is a Greek camp. That doesn't mean that the Greeks are going to invade, because Hera had gotten the prophecy started when she switched Jason and I, said Percy. The campers start howling in laughter at that statement. The hunters leave that evening. Bianca and Thalia hug their cousin, but they leave with the rest of the hunters. Hera, or rather Juno, appeared in his dreams that night, and Percy got pissed at her for stealing 7 months of his life. She acted as though 7 months was nothing. I missed my 6th year of Hogwarts, and I don't even know if my friends were harmed in the attacks from the monster in the Chamber of Secrets, said Percy, and Juno looked surprised, but she said nothing. As the next morning dawned, Percy, along with Frank and Hazel, were attending the Senate meeting. Percy explained about the Greek camp, and that was when everyone saw a giant ship. Let me introduce you to my other family, says Percy, as he sees long blonde hair in the distance. The demigods of Camp Jupiter were hesitant to welcome the new demigods, but they relaxed after Percy warmly greeted a blonde-haired female demigod. Thanks for listening. I'm so glad. I've got the last chapter up, but this is the second last chapter. I'm so glad. I want to read something else. I regret doing a long fic. I don't think I'll do a long fic for a bit now. I miss the spontaneity of a whole bunch of stories, but I'm running out of short fics, so send me recommendations, please, and then I'll read them. Thanks for listening. Woo!